Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Field Pass Pod. This is your fearless leaders, Zachary Forsyth and Brayden McConnell, and we're here to help you digest week 4 of the NFL season. We had a lot of ups, a lot of sparks flying in the Chiefs-Jets game. Of course, the NFL won't let us forget about it, um, as well as a lot of broken and heartbreaking losses. But first, Brayden, how are you doing today? Or how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. I mean, just chilling. School's been a pain in the butt,
He's
but
chilling.
yeah.
He's keeping it real. All right, let's go to our 5 headlines of the week. Brayden, what do you got for us for the start?
Let's start on Thursday night. Dan Campbell and the Lions, they marched down to Lambeau again. I mean, they go down and get another dub, and they looked impressive doing it. They were pretty much, other than like the bottom half of the third quarter, they were pretty much dominant that whole game. I mean, they Jared Goff threw that pick that got the Packers the 3 points, and I'm not sure they got another first down the rest of the half. I mean, the defense was in control pretty much. Pretty much, the offense lights out. David Montgomery well, he had 3 touchdowns, like 130 yards. Like, I mean, the only problem that Lions fans in the NFL scene is everyone thought they'd see more input with Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think they're just easing them into it, and that'll come later on. I mean, this Lions team, man, I'm buying in. They're looking real good. They had a hiccup in week 2, but I mean, they're off to a good start this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people shouldn't be sleeping on the Lions. Of course, I'm not going to say that you can't really say anything about the Lions. You can't call them overrated because they keep proving people wrong because they have this legacy of of being really, really bad. But then also you can't call them underrated, or sorry, you can't call them underrated because there is all this recent hype. So I'm really happy for the Lions. I'm really happy that they're able to go on the road and get a really big win. Um, and again, it just speaks to the strength of, I guess, the Campbell doctrine, and just believing in your guys. Obviously, that's the coaching culture appears to be like fulfilling the call of duty, and it seems like these players are really bought in. One thing I wanted to talk about on the Packers end of things, is kind of the questionable usage of some of their assets. We had mentioned before this week that there are a whole lot of injuries and that uh, those shouldn't be particularly, uh, like, they shouldn't be slept on, really. Like, we have a whole number of receivers who have completely, like, left the program, not obviously, like, not left the program, but from an injury perspective are like really haven't shown many signs of coming back. And then also we had some questionable usage of Aaron Jones. So it's like, and I can't remember, was he injured for that game, or did they really just not use him in a meaningful capacity?
I know he was injured before, but I'm pretty sure he played.
I think he
Yeah.
played, but that's the thing, is we have no idea. Like, that's one of your biggest assets on the Packers, and you
I
would think
mean,
a coach like Matt LaFleur would know that you want to get these people moving, especially when you don't have a particularly robust wide receiver core.
yeah, I'm looking at the stats right now. Aaron Jones, only 5 carries, 18 yards, averaging 3.5 yards a carry. And then he had 1 reception for -4 yards. So he had 14 offensive yards in that whole game.
Yeah, and so obviously, like, those numbers, I don't, there's like this desperate selling coach in Matt LaFleur who's trying to lose this game, or there's some issue that we just don't know about. And I'm probably going to opt for the second one. But even then, it was a pretty desperate offensive showing by the Packers, and really not something that you can get hyped about if you're a Packers fan. And then the last thing I'll say is that these couple weeks have been, I feel like, the most the the reporters who are asking these questions about, are you aware of how much you lost by, to these head coaches, they're really getting their head taken off. Like, we saw
I mean,
Sean
they're just
Payton, who after the
stupid
7-point loss,
questions.
they are really stupid questions, but we are seeing these coaches like really fire back at, at these reporters, which I thought was funny. I think we saw it from, like, It was probably Belichick always does things with the reporters, but but LaFleur and Sean Payton now have kind of like come out and just like shown their distaste for this line of questioning. So I thought it was funny how they all kind of showed up at the same time.
I mean, one thing I'm also against is them interviewing mid-game. Like that's just like in the middle of a quarter. That's just stupid.
Yeah, you very rarely get anything substantive from that. It
Yeah.
never really
It's like, well,
brings
how do
out
you
anything
not
valuable.
suck as bad the rest of this quarter?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, just let
it's
them
like, well, we're
coach.
gonna do something different.
Yeah.
That's all you can say. All right, so I think we can move on to the Bills offense, really putting it together, much to their detractors, myself included. The Bills offense have really shown it to the Dolphins, hanging up 48 points on them after their dominant 70-point win against the Broncos the week prior. So Brandon, what do you think this says about Josh Allen? Has he solved the interception problem? Is this offense clicking in a way that we haven't seen before, or is this just a return to normal?
Um, I mean, let's just look at Allen's 4 games this year. I mean, he had the hiccup. He had the hiccup in New York, right? That
Hmm.
was that happened, but no one really played well week 1, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just a sloppy week of football. This year he's 101 out of 135. He already has 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and I believe 3 of them were week 1.
Hmm.
So he's thrown however many touchdowns this week 1 and only 1 interception. That's really well. And this this Diggs to Josh Allen, Josh Allen to Diggs connection is lethal. I mean, 6 catches, 120, and 3 touchdowns on Sunday.
Average
Uh,
of 20 yards, which is pretty crazy.
yeah, and I mean, he caught 6 of the 7 targets. Like, I mean, I feel like we've seen this a lot before, but I mean, they're just
Hmm.
starting to pick it up. That Josh Allen's getting rid of the turnover issue. It seems we don't know yet. We I want to see more games with this 0 interceptions going on, but I mean, they're looking scary because I mean, these are 2 dominant weeks, and we saw how well the Commanders played against the Eagles, and Buffalo wiped the
Yeah, they
floor with them the
completely
week
took him out
before.
of the equation.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were a non-factor at that point. What I will say the first week was Josh Allen haters like cup of tea. Like it really couldn't have got better than that. But he has slowly been unraveling, or not slowly, rather quickly been unraveling that narrative. I mean, this guy completed 21 out of 25 attempts for 320 yards against the Dolphins, who aren't slouches. They are missing out on Jalen Ramsey, who is a quite notable loss, and I'm sure will continue to like his absence will continue to be rather seen. But putting up 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against this team is is a pretty awesome feat, especially with the Fangio defense sort of performing around expectations.
and
So
they're without Von Miller
and they're
too.
without Von Miller, correct? Yeah, and he'll be making his return soon, which makes this situation even scarier.
Yeah, I'm just they just got to be more consistent on this offensive end. I think week 1 was just week 1 football because I mean most teams now don't play their starters in the preseason, so that's like their first legit game of anything. That's why.
Yeah, it was just week 1. You could tell that a lot of teams were still working out the kinks, like especially quarterbacks who hadn't played during the preseason, or for some reason had some setback that had forced them out of practice. So, and most of those teams have been putting it together, um, but um, and the Bills are definitely within that equation. But that first week 1 was pretty bad.
Yeah,
Um, and especially when you're going against a Jets team who literally had Aaron Rodgers running out within a massive American flag, and then 3 plays into the season, like his Achilles is
gone.
like loose pasta. Like, yeah, so like I don't know how you win a game like that without Josh Allen like living up to all the criticism. So I'm glad that they've put it together for their sake. But one team that we think I personally have been incredibly surprised by, um, not that I didn't have any faith in them, would be the Houston Texans. Um, this Texans offense has routed the Pittsburgh defense, and I mean, Brain, I just want to let you talk on glorious CJ Stroud here for a second because uh, I just want to experience it for myself.
I mean, he's played great football. I mean, 16 for 33 of 6 and 2 tutties. Nico Collins, 7 receptions, 168, 2 touchdowns. That Nico Collins and CJ Stroud connection. It's not this week. They've balled out um continuously, those two. That connection's getting scary. I maybe thought it'd be either Robert Woods or Tank Dell, but I mean Nico Collins has really stepped up as the it seems favorite target as of right now for CJ Stroud. And I mean, he's not made any mistakes. He didn't get sacked a single time on Sunday against TJ Watt. So that offense playing well too. Damian Pierce, 24 carries, 81 yards. I mean, this team had 24 first downs on them, 50% on third down, which is amazing against their defense. 450 yards. I had the Texans winning. I didn't think it would be like this though.
That is true. I'll give you your flowers on that one. That was
I
something
mean,
that
because they even
I
had
didn't
eight
see.
penalties to Pittsburgh's too. I mean,
Yeah,
so they made mistakes and came back out and won. And one thing that, I mean, I guess Kenny Pickett did go down, but that was in the later end of the game. The game was already over, so that doesn't really matter. But I mean, this offense has been very explosive through the first 4 weeks, and I'm I'm curious if CJ Stroud can keep this up at this high of a level you can play. It looks like he can, but again, we're only 4 weeks in. We still got another 14 weeks for him to prove he can be a QB.
it's also interesting because I mean, I love CJ. I've seen the greatness and I've seen the vision that he brings to the table at Ohio State. But I wasn't I wasn't one to say that he would be the most NFL ready. I thought it was actually out of all of the prospects that were brought to us in the draft, I thought Bryce Young was going to be the most NFL ready. I think like what he brought to the table in terms of his scrambling potential, as well as just what he brought with his accuracy. I mean, I think CJ does have him beat on his accuracy, but like CJ has honestly transitioned better, like just better in these past couple weeks. And people were always um giving him grief about like paying behind Ohio State offensive line and really saying that he like or kind of putting up the potential that he wasn't going to be able to succeed in the NFL, like or that he would let up a bunch of sacks. The Texans let up 0 sacks this game,
Yeah,
and part of that is to do with the offensive line being like decent, and a lot of it is CJ Stroud like having these connections with receivers like Tank Dell and veteran receivers like Robert Woods, who like definitely aren't lauded for the Texans aren't lauded for their wide receiver room strength. Um, but they've somehow found a way to make it work. And one thing I wanted to say about CJ Stroud is like this is not everyone knows this is not your standard rookie performance, but like this is I need to outline just how crazy this is. And this is from Joseph Salvador from Sports Illustrated. He says, following Houston's win over the Steelers on Sunday, Stroud sits at 1,212 passing yards and 6 touchdown passes to no interceptions. He's averaging 303 yards through the air per contest. So at this rate, he'd finish the regular season with 5,151 passing yards. Andrew Luck currently holds the rookie passing record set at 4,374. If he continues at this rate, which who knows what we're gonna say about that? I mean, I don't have their schedule pulled up. It could get rougher down the road, but he's set to shatter the passing yards record by rookie. We're not going to overreact. We're not going to say that this is sure, but if he continues at this rate, that's something we seriously need to consider CJ Stroud as like one of the best potential like picks of the last like of really like the last decade. So I don't know,
yeah,
just something to consider. He's silencing all the haters, but it's important not to overreact it. But when you have a statistic like that, it is pretty eye-opening.
And
Um, sorry. What you have something to say?
I was just gonna say, moving on to more quarterbacks with Sunday Night Football. Zach Wilson outperforms Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I'm gonna read off the stats of the two, and then I'm gonna let your thoughts go, and then I'll say mine. Zach Wilson
Mhm.
was 28 for 39, 245 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He did have that one fumble, but no interceptions. Mahomes was 18 for 30, 203, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And they were both sacked. Mahomes was sacked once, Zach Wilson was sacked twice. And Mahomes did have a higher QBR though by one. But
I mean, the eye test tells you that the Jets had a better game. Or sorry, not the Jets. Zach Wilson had a better game. Like that's
yeah,
just, and no one thought this would happen. Like people, I've seen more people like leading up to that game saying that this is potentially the last Zach Wilson game like ever. Like like the
ever.
last, well, like at least at the Jets, like where he's like starting in a meaningful capacity. Like this could be Zach Wilson, like last week. Like this is like in Skyrim where he has his head on the chopping block, and then like this random Chiefs game comes in and like saves his life. So like I I don't really know where this came from. I don't know why Zach. Maybe it was Donna Kelsey coming in and just providing inspiration for Zach Wilson, but he had a better game, and it's encouraging to see that it's like I kind of out of nowhere this Jets culture, despite the losses, has kind of shifted to support Zach Wilson. Now this could be a thing where it flops back over on its head again. It probably will if he can't make the throws. But I mean, impressive showing from Zach Wilson. It's not something that you should like you just you can't deny it based on his history. And it was stupid to see that reporter when he's talking to Chris Jones, like try and take away from this performance just because of his past. Like just say he had a great game and let that be that.
I feel like people are refusing to admit that he actually played good. And the thing is, I think it's just him finally getting settled in because he wasn't expecting to be starter. He wasn't expecting to be playing all year. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
He is expecting to learn from Rodgers, and I feel like the play calls a little bit were, especially week 2 and week 3, were kind of like built in for Rodgers to be Zach instead of Zach Wilson. Now Zach Wilson, uh, whatever, I forget the announcer's name, but I think it was Collinsworth. He
It was
said,
Chris Collinsworth, yeah.
yeah, he said that instead with Aaron, the difference is with Aaron Rodgers, he gives out hand signals to change receivers' routes. Zach, and they and he said, but Zach Wilson is just canceling plays if he doesn't like them. Like they give him 2 plays in the call. The first one, he says scrap, scrap, scrap. If he wants to scrap the first one, then they go to the second one. I think that's just a coaching change from having Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson, and I think they're coaching more for Zach Wilson as their QB to have him shine. Because I mean, he made one mistake, and I get it kind of cost him the game, but I mean, he made the turnover with like 5-6 minutes left. So like, you can't blame the Chiefs running the ball out for 5-6 minutes all on Zach Wilson. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they weren't really I mean, it's kind of, I feel bad for him to a certain extent because the Jets weren't exactly leaning on the run for this particular
No.
game. The Chiefs, for example, they ran the ball 35 times with Pacheco running 20 on it by himself. The Jets, in contrast, counting here, had about they ran the ball 16 times, with Brees Hall only having 6 carries with their highest amount of carries. That to me is ridiculous. Now
Yeah.
you're right in the sense that this offense is becoming a little bit more Zach Wilson friendly, and you would have hoped that the Jets, having a pretty aged quarterback, would have an offense prepared for Zach Wilson that, with the potential likelihood that Aaron Rodgers would be going down since he's up there in age, but it does seem that they've been able to settle and actually kind of accept that Zach Wilson is going to be here for the long haul, and like they've helped to structure the play calling, and just the personnel around him. One thing that is going to have to get better in is the rushing game though, because that's ridiculous. Only 6 carries for Brees
How
Hall
and
is
he had that one
ridiculous.
big run. How long was that big run? Like
It's possible that that one big run is skewing the results because he averaged for 9.3 yards per carry.
and he had like a
Um,
30 or 40-yard run, so that just plays into that.
yeah, so he had 56 yards. So I mean, the efficiency isn't like exactly portrayed correctly here when you
Ye-
say 9.3 average carries per yard. But
43
I'm
of those was on one run. So he
yeah,
had
yeah,
5 carries for 13 and then one for 43.
yeah. So ideally they get this figured out. I mean, hopefully having Brees Hall and Dalvin Cook, like it's possible that the Chiefs have good run defense, so you felt like you have to throw the ball against like a I get you take your chances with the DBs for Kansas City, but I mean Zach Wilson playing that good and asking like the team to lean on Zach Wilson and have him perform that well is pretty great for him.
Yeah.
Another team in which in my opinion has defied expectations, but in the opposite way would be the Giants offense. Against the Giants offensive line let up 11 sacks, with let's just call it less than stellar performance by Daniel Jones, um, in what amounted in a pretty and embarrassing loss that left both Peyton and Eli Manning speechless on a number of occasions. 24-3 Seahawks. Braden, where are the Giants at right now, and where do they go from here?
Oh,
Because
I
it
mean,
doesn't look easy.
no. I mean, one they paid what Daniel Jones 160 million
Yeah,
for him
160.
to go 27 and 34. He threw 27 completions and only threw for 200 yards. And then he didn't throw a touchdown and he threw 2 interceptions and lost a fumble. A total QBR of 22.
Yeah, that's abysmal. That's sorry. That's
Yeah.
that's
I
abysmal.
mean, he did have the most rushing yards on the team. We could give him that, but that's not what you're paying him for. I mean,
That
this
was a feature of it, but like that's not sustained.
I
Like
mean,
that's not his marketable skill, or that shouldn't
and
have been.
the best receiver was Matt Breida.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I
See,
mean,
yeah. I mean, it's clear how much this offense leans on Saquon, but I don't see that solving any issues going forward.
yeah, especially with this O line play. I mean, I I think I could have got a sack. I mean,
Yeah, there were a
they were
number of
just
occasions where who is 76 on the Giants.
I don't know,
Let me
but
see. It
he
might have been
was getting
75.
cooked.
Let's see. It is okay, 75. Yeah, 75 on the O line for the Giants. If you want to go back and watch that game on a number of occasions, just getting beat around the edge like crazy. Like he'll put his arms up, try and get them around the shoulders, and then will immediately drop them, and then the edge is gone. So I it, part of this is on Daniel Jones just because like there's questionable decision making in the pocket, but a lot of it does have to come back to the O line because there was some
I
pretty
mean,
shoddy work.
okay. The the Giants had 36 minutes of possession time in this game. That's over one half of football.
Yeah.
They had only 248 yards, and the Seahawks, who had 24 minutes, had 280. They ran 24 more plays than the Seahawks. They were 6 for 16 on third down. That's probably why. I mean, this is just awful. Like, I don't like this may be the worst offense in the NFL right now. I mean, at least the
Uh,
Cardinals are
yeah.
moving the ball.
Well, I remember saying that the Cardinals offensive line looked like the worst one in football, and I have been proven wrong. Like over and over again by this Giants. Like Evan Neal hasn't proven to be a particularly great pick either, which just it kind of that's kind of that prospect's kind of blown up in the face of the Giants. So it's a shame to see that like you kind of blinked in this Giants offense, which I mean wasn't amazing like to last season, but it's completely blown up like
Yeah.
in like in in just like a matter of seconds. So
I mean,
it's
Daniel
it's
Jones
really a shame.
is he has a 2 to 6 touchdown interception ratio. So for every
Yeah.
touchdown he throws 3 interceptions.
Yeah. Not good. Not good.
And
Maybe we should
$160
start telling
million for that. I mean,
yeah,
shoot,
that's a
strap
whole lot
me
of
up.
money. All right. Well, that was I think that's everything for our week 4 highlights. Let's bring it back to the future. Beginning with Bears Commanders. Brain, what do you have to say about this showdown?
I mean, the Bears are allergic to winning, bro.
They are. Oh my gosh. Eberflus, yeah, that decision not to kick killed me.
I mean,
Like
they were up 28-7.
they weren't. Justin
I
Fields
was
was
like, oh my goodness, where's this Bears been? And then the second half happened
they
where,
were using Justin Fields. Like I don't. Well, I can't even say that. Like Justin Fields was showing off, and they got DJ Moore involved, which is pretty great. Like obvious, maybe
hey,
getting rid of
look what, I mean, are
Claypool
you so,
helped.
yeah. I
Was that
mean,
what you were gonna say?
yeah, it's like when they got DJ Moore involved, they looked great. And
Yeah,
then,
and then when the decisions have to come down to the coaching, they completely blow it.
but the thing about this game that is interesting is the Commanders. They went into Philly and played their hearts out, and they were very close to winning this game. And I think since it's such a quick turnaround, it's only 4 days, they may still be on that loss and may get distracted in preparing for the Bears. But I still think the Commanders are going to win. I don't. I mean, they looked really good last week. They bounced back well against that beat down to the Bills, and I think they'll beat down the Bears. And I
I
think
actually think
it'll.
it'll be kind of close. Like I don't
Oh,
think
you think it'll be close?
I don't think it'll be like I think it'll be like a like would you call a 2-score game a beatdown?
Yeah, it'll be 2, 3 scores.
I think it'll be 2. I think it'll be around like hovering around 1 to 2. Like I the thing is that I don't think this Bears defense is as abominable as it may seem. Like they're not good at all, but they're not Denver level quality, which is something that I didn't think I would be saying prior to the season. Like the I in my opinion that they do have some options on defense as well, but the Commanders do as well. I just think they'll be able to find a way to keep it closer. And your point is true about it being like a pretty quick turnaround on both teams' end, but I think that having a loss like well, I really can't even say it because it's a non-factor because both teams had a pretty heartbreaking loss. It was just like the Bears shot themselves in the
Well,
foot.
the
I
Bears know
can't
how
really,
to lose, so
yeah,
they're gonna
I
move
can't
on.
really put that on Rivera for going for 2. Like I don't, a lot of people have criticized him for that for not going for 2, but I really don't. I don't think that that was. I mean, it was probably the right decision to go for 2 because you realistically you were getting away with a lot of stuff for like keeping it that close to the Eagles the entire game, but like I didn't
I
necessarily
mean, it's
hate
not
the
like they
decision.
didn't get the ball in overtime. They had chances to win in overtime,
Yeah,
so you can't even say that them not going for 2 cost them the game. It's just Philly found a way to get it done.
yeah. I do think that the Commanders win it out though. I think that that Terry McLaurin getting more involved in this offense, and kind of like reclaiming his role as a wide receiver 1, and as opposed to it being Jahan Dotson, who's also very good, um, is good for the team. I think having Howell, who can like rely on one wide receiver, in particular, is going to be good for the team as well. And I think that the Commanders do find a way to win it out. I just think it won't be like it's not going to be anything close to like Bills, Dolphins, or anything like that. I think just think they'll find a way to keep it around 2 scores. That leads us next to the Buffalo Bills again. I think that the Bills do win this one out. I think that just with the way that um, the Bills have been ripping and roaring, I think that they're just going to continue to steamroll through this one. The the Jags have been disappointing. Like they had that first week showing which like Trevor Lawrence like was proving to be he had a pretty decent week. But it's just like are people forgetting that we were talking about this guy potentially being the MVP in the offseason? Like it it's not like out of nowhere we just all agreed that that Trevor Lawrence was just like this amazing quarterback. He did show incredible improvements in his in this prior season. But we gotta be serious at a certain point. Like he is not currently in the elite status. And I think that like just on both sides of the ball, the Jaguars have been disappointing. If you did get a win on the road in London, which is encouraging, but I think the Bills just have way too much firepower to keep this like to even have this game in question. The Tre'Davious White injury is incredibly frustrating and disappointing, but I don't think that it's something that will uh like collapse the defense, especially with Von Miller returning soon. So absolute prayers out to him. Um, but I think the Bills defense will find a way to piece it together.
Yeah, before I even talk about this game, like, do the Jaguars just like they need to move to England at this point? This is back-to-back games in Europe. I mean, they probably just stayed there throughout the week. I don't see a point of them going all the way back to Jacksonville. Um, but yeah, the Jaguars have been kind of disappointing. They had their offense has been real slow, even though they won. I mean, what their defense was the highlight in the Falcons game. They kind of shut Desmond Ridder and the Falcons down.
Which
Um,
isn't really that hard.
no, not really.
No, you
And
have Desmond
this
Ritter.
the Bills have looked are the have looked the most dominant these last 3 weeks. They've they've butchered the Raiders, Commanders, and Dolphins back to back, and it's looking like that the Commanders and Dolphins are very respectable teams this year. And I think they'll do the same to the Jags. The Jags offense won't be able to keep up with the high scoring of the Bills, so I think the Bills win pretty convincingly in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people are going to start having conversations about the Jags being pretty overrated prior to the season after this game.
Saints, Patriots. Derek Carr played last week. They looked all right. They fell short, and Patriots got mopped by the Cowboys. I was kind of surprised by that because I mean they've played almost every game close, but I think I like Derek Carr better than I like Mac Jones in this situation, and that's the only. I think Derek Carr, if the game comes down to, he'll be able to lead his team downfield for a game-winning touchdown or field goal over Mac Jones. So I'm picking Saints in this one.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the Saints. I mean, both defenses are pretty solid. Um, in basically every regard. The Patriots have really struggled to get the run going in every game. They've they've tried. Um, they just don't really have very many options now. Like they have Mac Jones, who you can see getting yelled at on the sidelines. Um, by Bill Belichick, just like with frustration over the way that this team is performing. Um, and I just don't think that like they don't have any options. I think that I agree. Derek Carr is better. I think that you would want Derek Carr, not necessarily to build a franchise around, but like he is certainly serviceable in comparison to Mac Jones. I think that the receiver core is much better. And I just think that like that's just where they haven't beat. Um, it's really upsetting to see Christian Gonzalez go down. They brought in JC Jackson today. Um, I was really upset to see that happen, and I don't it's just we're missing out on seeing a really great rookie bud. Um, and I don't think JC Jackson is necessarily going to be able to fill those shoes. Uh, so I think the Saints win this one out. I think it's going to be pretty ugly, but I do think the Saints find a way to win.
I forget. It's Christian Gonzalez. Is he out for a minute?
He is
What's his
out with
injury?
a torn labrum for the so out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's big. I forgot about that he got hurt. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty big loss for the Patriots because he was shutting down a lot of their star receivers they were playing.
I believe it's a torn labrum. Let's see. Torn labrum. Yep. So really awful to see, and no one want, and it's just to have to take like the one thing that the Patriots have done
Yeah, that was
like
like their one
super well.
positive.
Yeah, it's just like to lose that is really disheartening. And it's like, do you even want to watch the Patriots anymore? I mean, they're not like in this like nuclear waste conversation, but like it is really embarrassing. Um, which moves us on to Titans Colts. Uh, I think that against the Bengals, there were some questions that were answered in terms of Derrick Henry's aptitude still in the league. Like, does he still have a place? He had that crazy rush, like touchdown rush against you guys, and also a passing touchdown, which was pretty crazy. He ran 22 times for 122 yards against the Cincinnati defense, averaging 5.5 yards and 1 touchdown. So it's pretty dominant showing by Henry. And uh, I think that he will have a pretty dominant showing over the Colts this week as well. I do, however, think that the Colts find a way to make this work. Anthony Richardson has been absolutely electric over the past couple weeks or the past week where he hasn't had a concussion. Um, and I just think that they find a way to win this. I think like the Titans are a team where like once they're down, they're down. So if the Pittman, the Pittman Richardson connection can continue to reign true, I think the Titans will fall down and stay down. So I don't know if there's much more to say about that one. Brandon, the Bengals recently played the Titans. If you have anything to say about them, how did you think they looked?
The Bengals or the Titans, I mean, they killed the Bengals. There's no flat that they defensively they looked amazing by I mean stopping the Bengals and then that run game. I mean, I think that's going to be a key factor again, and I don't think the Colts are going to be able to stop it. I mean,
Mm,
I mean, they almost pulled off the 23-0 comeback against the Rams, but I mean, can they will they I don't think they'll be able to do if the run game gets is in control. I don't think they'll be able to do that. I think I think the Titans start off well and control most of this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think they'll dominate the line of scrimmage and be able to take control of this ball game.
yeah, it could go either way. It's just a matter of how Derrick Henry's feeling because the efficiency looked really, really bad. And essentially every week leading up to a 4. So if he can continue at the rate in which he was in that, I mean, the question is that is that saying more about Henry or the Cincinnati defense? And I guess this week will show
This
us.
week will show, yeah. And moving on to Ravens Steelers. Ravens are coming off a great showing in Cleveland. I mean, they controlled that game start to finish, and the Steelers got mollywopped by the Texans. Kenny Pickett got hurt at the end of the game. I'm not really sure if he's going to play or not. I don't think it's going to matter. I think Ravens won this one pretty convincingly, and I think they take a firm control of this AFC North right now. Because I mean, the Browns are 2-2, are 2-2 going. Browns and Steelers are both 2-2, and since he's 1-3, and then if they win this week, they'll be 4-1.
Yeah,
Yeah, 4-1.
4-1.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know. I think Ravens. I think they just. I think they dominate. Kind of. They won't. It won't be as flashy as the Texans game, but I mean it'll be a similar stat line.
yeah. I don't know. I think it will be pretty flash. I think the Steelers had just got a quick punch in the face, like in the Texans games, and they kind of like it's not that they were never good. It's just they just had a really bad showing in the Texans game, combined with the Texans just like being on this really up and up movement. Um, but I think that I imagine that they could still be pretty shell shocked, and I don't think that they'll be able to piece something together against the Ravens. To put it in perspective, the Browns defense is still considered statistically one of the best defenses in the league right now, even after losing to them. It was like 328, I believe. Like they
It
tried
was 30 to
like
6.
sorry, 36. Oh, wow. Oh, that's because I stopped watching after because I got so frustrated.
Oh,
36.
are you talking
Like
about the Browns game?
yes, I'm talking about the
Oh, it was
Browns.
28. I thought you were talking
Oh,
about
okay,
the
sorry.
Steelers one.
Yeah,
Ravens was
it was 28-3.
yeah.
Um, even after letting the Ravens put up 28 points, like the efficiency was there. Our star players and especially our line, our DTs are making things work. That is true. Now, as a Cleveland fan, I do have to give him, like my team, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. DTR was in. It did not go well, especially when you have Kevin Stefanski, who's keeping like a pass-oriented offense again with when you're facing one of the better defenses in the league, and like for no, and that's where my frustration lies. But that's besides the point. The Ravens are just that real. Like Lamar Jackson, when he is on one, like he is, like you cannot stop him. Like I don't see a way in which you slow him down. I mean, obviously the offense wasn't out there for a particularly long period of time in the Cleveland game, so they're getting tired, and we started to let up more points towards the end. Um, but I think Lamar Jackson really is just that guy. And so when you have Lamar Jackson on a roll, who's creating plays and making throws that like he had a Patrick Mahomes throw. Remember when everyone just goes crazy with the, and not to, this is not to detract from Patrick Mahomes, where he had like the basically the no look pass where he like spun it to, I forget who it was, but it was like a crazy pass, and it of course it ended up on the NFL Instagram page. Uh, Lamar Jackson kind of had a throw like that to Andrews, and Andrews like had a really large gain, and like he had pressure from all around him, and at that point I was just like, okay, I'm not even really that mad about this anymore, because when he's on a run like that, you just have this unstoppable force against this team that got like a swift punch to the face. Like I think that the Ravens do handle this one, and I think that the Steelers are going to be in a really depressed state after this week.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers need to bounce back, but against this opponent, it's going to be very hard for them.
Ain't gonna happen. Ain't
No.
gonna happen. Okay. Panthers, Lions. I guess the question is when do the Panthers actually get a good receiver? They're not, I mean, they don't have chumps. Like they got DJ Chark and Adam Thielen, but they're really looking for, and we've seen in this week that this is like vetted by actual journalists, that they're looking for like a true wide receiver one. So I don't think it happens by the end of this week or anything like that, but like does this game compel them to really cash out for a newer one? Because I don't think that they're going to be able to produce, like this passing offense is going to be able to do anything against the Giants defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions are the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the league right now, and Panthers are probably one of the coldest. I mean, it's 3-1 versus 4-0, or 0-4 now, 4-0. And I don't, and the thing is with this game, the Panthers are the reason the Lions got eliminated from the playoffs a year ago. So I think this kind of has a bad taste in their mouth, and they want to get their lick back against this Panthers team. So they're not going to see them as an 0-4 Panthers. I think they're going to be motivated to go out and beat the Panthers convincingly, and I think they're exactly going to do that. Are they going to do that? I think Lions win this one convincingly. And yeah, they do need a wide receiver one because I mean, Thielen and Chark are good, but I feel like they need another solid receiver. I don't know where that will come from, but Bryce Young,
Yeah.
CJ Stroud, comparing CJ Stroud to Bryce Young, CJ Stroud definitely has the better weapons on offense.
Like kind of. Like I mean, they have a better running room. Like Damian Pierce is, I would probably have rather have him than Miles Sanders. But like their wide receivers are probably around the same quality as like Chark and Thielen. I mean, their best wide receiver is probably like Robert Woods, right?
I'd say Nico Collins is the
Or
best.
or Nico Collins. Like I think that they're pretty Like I mean, other than Tank Dell, who has some nice rookie talent, like I think the room is just the same. I just don't think that they're connecting in the way that Stroud and really all three of his like standard wide receivers are. I just think that Bryce Young is struggling, and like that connection is not there because he's not performing in a way that we can see anything actually materialize. But yeah, I agree. I think that the Lions will see this one. Like, I don't think it's gonna be a thing where the Lions just like let this one slip through after that big win. I think that they're pretty determined to prove to the league that they are who they say they are. So I think this is where they win.
Yeah, and then I got in this next game, Texans Falcons. We've already talked about we just got done to how explosive this Texas offense is. And I don't think the Falcons will stop them or be able to keep up with them with Desmond Ridder. I don't think that offense is very explosive. And I think the Texans will win this one by a couple possessions just because of how explosive their offense is.
Yeah, I agree. Desmond Ridder is like we're already having this conversation that we were having last season, or like at least reporters are asking these questions. Reporters will ask every question, but like we're starting to see the more like, are we really cool with Desmond Ridder starting conversation? And I mean, if you've watched the quarterback documentary, we started seeing these questions about Mariota pretty early in the season as well. So I don't anticipate that they'll make a change like in the recent future, but they are not producing in any capacity. And I mean, Bijan Robinson has been great. He's getting those highlights, but like it's not this it's not necessarily a thing where his force alone is enough to win games. And I think that the Texans, especially with upgrades they made over the offseason, like in the pick of Willie Anderson, like I think that they have a good enough defense just to stop this really weird offense. And with the Texans offense, I mean, I think that they're just going to keep on rolling.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all we got to say on that one.
Yeah. I think the biggest beatdown of the week is coming up here next with the Giants Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are going to be pretty spiteful after this last loss. I mean, they're going to have to reaffirm that they're going to have to like remind the league that they did what they did to the Broncos and like kind of validate that they can do that again. Granted, it's against a Giants team who just let up 11 sacks to the Seahawks, who aren't known for their. I mean, it's not like they're slouches, but like they're not like this amazing defense. So I
They're
think
not
that they
known
do
for their
find.
pass rush, at least.
Yeah, right, for sure. So I think that they'll find a way to kill the offensive line and then get to Jalen Jones a number of times. Um, Probably not 11, but I think that I mean it's enough to disrupt the game and cause the Giants to lose in a pretty dominant way.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are going to win by 50.
Is that
I
really
mean,
your projection?
yeah. I
All right,
mean,
there you go. We'll bank it.
the Dolphins, they have one of the most explosive offenses against a defense that isn't that good, and their offense sucks. There's no other way to put it. I mean, they're getting like shut out in the first half.
Yeah.
So why would it not be 35 to nothing at half?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think how many points? I think the Giants have scored a collective like uh
They've probably scored like 50
they've
points in total.
scored they've scored 31 points on the Cardinals, 12 points against the Niners. That's 43 point. Yeah, they've scored under 50 points in total over the entire course of the season.
Yeah.
And they nearly lost that game to the Cardinals. Like that was a competitive game for the Cardinals. So I mean, I believe you. I don't know if it'll be 50. Like I don't think we'll see a blowout like that, but like I think it'll be pretty up there.
Yeah. I'm saying 50 because I think it'll happen. That's
Claim
that.
it. Claim it.
All right. And then this next game, Bengals Cardinals. Bengals, I don't know what's going on with them. The only upside is it came out today. Joe Burrow says he's feeling the best he's felt since the beginning of the season with this calf injury, so it's looking like the worst is behind them. And I think this is a good bounce back opportunity for the Bengals because the Cardinals are definitely the weakest opponent they face. And I think this is if they are going to find their stride, this will be the game to do it. They have the talent to be 5-0 right now after this week, and they haven't shown it. They could be. I mean, you can see they can obviously be 1-4, or they could be 4-1. It's just they have the talent to do it. I don't. This the coaching need to find a way to get this offense going. I think they're just expecting them to do good every week in and week out, and it's just not really happening. I think they're. I think yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on, but I think the Bengals will be able to win this game because I think they'll bounce back with this is a good opportunity for them too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say what I've said about the Bengals over and over again over these past weeks because this is a tired point. They're not treating this injury seriously, and to me, him saying that is like as and obviously as a Bengals fan, you want to believe it, but like from the outside looking in, that to me that just appears like it's just talk. Like I don't know if I should believe that Joe Burrow is feeling the best that he's felt because he's not shown that in any capacity. Like it's we are 3 days removed from that showing against the Titans, and it wasn't very good. Like it just wasn't like it wasn't the offense was not what it normally was or what it should be, and I fear that they are still not treating it seriously enough as it should be because it's affecting every aspect of his play. Now, I think you're right. I think that this is a get back opportunity. I think that the Bengals do know that if they lose this game, their odds of going to the playoffs, especially through a division like the AFC North, basically fall to like it gets real ugly. It gets really really ugly if you're 1-4 in the AFC North. So I I think that the Bengals do find a way to win this game. I think that Josh Dobbs does put up a pretty decent showing, and I think that this is pretty close. Um, but I think the Bengals, I think they know how important this game is. And not like there's just like this going to be this like collective group understanding that like I don't buy into that per se. I think Mixon will be able to get a little bit more involved in this offense. Um and I think Burrow will probably get better and compare or he will put up a better showing as or at least you would hope as he did against the Titans, but I think it will be close. So that's really all I have to say about that. Most of it, I mean, nothing has changed in my opinion.
No,
So
we just keep saying the same thing every week, so
yeah,
it just needs to change at this point.
yeah. This is a really interesting game that we're about to talk about, and I'm excited that it's kind of coming out in the later game, like the later schedule. Eagles Rams. Um, I think that this might finally be the team. I think this is the team that brings down the Eagles. Uh, Obviously Stafford's a little bit questionable, but if he plays, I think that this connection, with him and some of his rookie, like some of the rookies on this team, like Kyron Williams, Puka Nakua, like I think that that is enough to stop the Eagles in their tracks, because like really the only reason that I can't make a board claim like that, but like one of the main reasons why they even kept that Commanders game competitive is because you have AJ Brown on Emmanuel Forbes, who was just starting out. Like he's just a rookie. Like we've kind of grown accustomed to seeing these crazy like cornerbacks in these leagues. Like we had Witherspoon on the Seahawks. We had Gonzalez on the Patriots, and then of course we had Sauce Gardner in last year who put up an electric performance. But it's like I don't think Emmanuel Forbes is like a scrub by any means. Uh, but like when you have AJ Brown, who's like this really physical, large receiver against like this a rookie, like it's going to go about as well as you expect. And I think that the I just don't think that they're going to be able to do that again against the Rams. I think that the Rams offense is going to be a little bit more productive, especially with some of how these young guys look like what I said earlier. And I think this is where they finally meet their match.
I disagree. Tennessee. This is going to be the most physical game of the week with the line of scrimmage. I mean, just look at Eagles offensive line versus Aaron Donald and all of them. That's going to be interesting to watch. I just think the Eagles are going to find a way to win like they always do. I think they're built for that. I think Jalen Hurts is that guy. And they got a lot of offensive weapons to be able to put points up. Stafford to Puka connection is looking unstoppable at this point. I mean, so I don't I think it'll be a very close one, but I think the Eagles just got that dog in them to pull this out.
I mean, it's not that's not offensive to say or anything like that. Like that's not like no one's gonna like raise your eyebrows at that because they are undefeated. One of the two teams that are undefeated, and I think like they're good. Like they're obviously like they're good. Like they're great. They're Super Bowl contender. Like they're Super Bowl like they appeared in the Super Bowl last year, and like they're no scratch. But I think that the Rams like I think this is where they finally make enough mistakes to have a team that can punish them for it.
Then moving on to an interesting matchup to call it, Jets Broncos. I mean, Broncos. I mean, give them credit. They did overcome 21 points. I mean, it's the Chicago, but still 21 point comeback is still hard, no matter who the opponent is. And then Zach Wilson and the Jets, they looked pretty impressive against the Chiefs. And I think Zach Wilson is starting to find himself. The play calling is getting better with Zach Wilson as a quarterback. I think the Jets win this one because still they made the Bears offense like did very well against that Broncos defense. And I still think that's a question mark. And I think the Jets will find a way to put some points on this defense.
Yeah, I think that there's been like a little bit of a spark um in the Jets offense and I mean really on both sides of the ball. Like there is that questionable holding call by Sauce. I mean, I kind of agree with the call in the end, but like but I think that there's kind of like a spite to this team and they want to win. I think that they see this as an opportunity. Uh if Zach Wilson puts up the performance like he did against the Chiefs, he's going to win.
Yeah.
That's it. If we see a return to the mean, then we're in trouble. And like this is kind of like the hell game that we talked about, like Bears against Broncos in last week. Uh, but if they can keep it entertaining and Zach Wilson finds a way to like, or at least they find a way to get him involved, like I think that this can be a dominant showing for Zach Wilson and something that it could be a circumstance in which he kind of like earns the respect that he has he has not been given for a good reason, but like I think he can find a way to solidify his spot and develop an image for himself in this particular week. And that leads us over to the last three games, and that would be Minnesota versus the Kansas City Chiefs. It's been a really hard couple of weeks for the Vikings. I mean, you have some of the best offensive talent in that of Justin Jefferson. You have some like pretty or what is supposedly we're one of the better running backs in the leagues in that of Alexander Madison. But things have not gone their way. 1-3. Really with their only win up against the Panthers, and even then that wasn't a super like healthy looking game. I think that the Chiefs do find a way to no, well, not like it's gonna be hard per se, but like I think they do win this game. Um, the question is like is Kirk Cousins really the problem in this offense? Because in the last couple games, it didn't really appear like that was the case. I mean, in let's just go through his stats over the course of the season. And against the Buccaneers, which is his first game, he threw for 344 yards, completion percentage of 75%, QBR rating of 102. His worst QBR was this week with 80.7%, and that was because he really didn't throw for that many yards. He only threw for 139, and he had 2 interceptions. So I mean, like bad week for Kirk Cousins, and I think that the Chiefs are going to be able to punish it. Um, And I just think this just kind of feels like a bland matchup to me. I think that if they are able to get Justin Jefferson involved, they'll be able to keep it like interesting, but he hasn't been like electric, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily a problem. I just think the Vikings as a whole have struggled. I mean, they expected to lose so much in the offseason and just be as good as they were. I mean, they did get over the hump in Carolina. I am and the Chiefs didn't have the most impressive week against the Jets. I just think this Mahomes Kelsey duo in this offense will be too much for Minnesota in the end. I think Minnesota will keep it close like most of their matches have been, but I think just Kansas City finds a way to get done. I think the Vikings, them getting a one win was are like over the O for hump was crucial. Do I think it'll lead to more wins in the future? Yes. Will it be enough? I don't know, but I think they're after this game they'll start to trend up, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like they just kind of it just seems like this season, like they're finally collecting their dues for last season where they like had like a negative point differential. It just seems like these games are swinging that way. Um,
Yeah.
but
Moving on to Sunday Night Football, Cowboys versus 49ers. I mean, 49ers have probably been the most dominant team this whole year. I don't know if they've played a single close game, and this Dallas defense is talented, but they're missing Trayvon Diggs. Micah Parsons was banged up for a second. I didn't look too serious because he came back in the game, but I think this will be more of a shootout type game where it's maybe like 45 to 40 or something like that. I think the 49ers will win this game though, just because they've looked pretty complete through this. And this system is just unstoppable offensively. So I think the 49ers edge it out.
yeah, I think one thing that I agree, I think the 49ers will win. I think one thing that you didn't mention that could also play into it is the red zone struggle for the Cowboys. I mean that
Yeah.
it didn't like show itself per se in the Patriots game for a reason that I'm not sure. But I think that the red zone troubles are warranted. Like they do warrant some concern, and I think that they will be able to punt like the 49ers defense, which is arguably the best one in the league, will be able to punish them for that lack of efficiency, especially in the red zone where it's the most important. And then finally bringing us home, Packers Raiders. Now this is an interesting game to me. I think that and I don't even know if I've like settled on like a team that I think can win this. I guess the question for you, Braden, is if you are McDaniels, do you put Jimmy G back in? Like after the showing against the Chargers, like which wasn't particularly bad. Like, do you consider keeping the rookie in?
I think if a Jimmy G is healthy, he's gonna play him just because of all the money they paid him. I don't think it's whether Aiden O'Connell played well or not. I think it's just they paid him however much money, and since they did, they're gonna play him. Now, I mean, yeah, the Packers struggled against the Lions, but they've had a long break to prepare for this game to bounce back. I mean, they were probably practicing. I wouldn't be surprised if they took Friday, Saturday, and maybe practice or a little bit on Sunday, but they've had a long time to game plan for this game, and I think Packer. I mean, because it's on Monday night too, so they get a whole extra day. I think the Packers edge this one out in Vegas. I think it'll be close because I'm not really sure the status of both of these offenses, but I think Jordan Love will find a way to get it done.
I still don't know. Like I it's hard for me to like I think I'm gonna give it to the Raiders. Like I think if either one of them play, I think Devonte Adams is just like that big of a player. Like he is and it's not like he's been completely taken out of the equation. Like obviously he's not as happy as he would have been if he was playing with a more than competent quarterback. But like I just do think that, especially with Josh Jacobs, like he hasn't been true to form, like, but I think that he's still a really great player. Um, and I think they find a way to get them both involved in a way against this Packers defense that hasn't been particularly amazing, especially against the Lions last showing. You're right in that the point that you're right on the point about like there being a longer period of time and sort of a buffer period in between that embarrassing loss against the Lions. But I think the Raiders do find a way to get it done, despite Josh McDaniels being probably one of the worst coaches in the league, along with Eberflus and Stanley. Sorry, Staley. Um, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that this game it's gonna be a very I don't know interesting game to watch because I don't know if it'll be very entertaining, but it'll be interesting to watch. I'll put it that just to see
I
what
don't think it will be
unfolds.
ugly or
No,
anything. I think
I just don't know what's gonna happen really.
yeah, it's a good point. Thank you guys so much for thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you staying with us for the whole thing. Um, let us know if there's anything that you think we're stupid for. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Peace.